So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming this morning. At the end of the walking meditation, Brian said, and now we will bow to the Buddha in gratitude, he said. So for those of you who are new today, you wouldn't know this, but for those who've been here before, we have a new Buddha that we are bowing to today. He's quite wonderful. He's a wonderful addition to our Sangha, wonderful new member. It's not as if the Buddha we had on the altar earlier was inferior, but I've always felt that it wasn't the right one for this hall. This Buddha that comes from Burma by way of a Asian art dealer in Vermont. I think this Buddha is the one we've been waiting for. He's quite wonderful. In a certain way, it is said, a Buddha, an image of the Buddha, both has various purposes and meanings. On the historical level, it reminds us that we are not here kind of making things up, but we are the heirs of a long tradition, 2,600 years of experience working with human beings and facilitating their healing and transformation, their enlightenment. And it all began historically with Shakyamuni Buddha. So that is one reason we are happy to have him here. And why when Brian says we bow in gratitude, some may say, well, why bow in gratitude? I don't even know who he is. Well, we bow in gratitude again because we wouldn't be here if he hadn't started the whole thing. And if the tradition that has developed over these thousands of years and all the millions and hundreds of millions of people that have participated in this journey, again, we are their heirs. And we, again, because of that, we don't have to, again, stumble about blindly, reinventing the wheel. The wheel has been invented. We just have to drive smoothly. The chariot that has been given us. The Buddha also, of course, is representative of our true nature, our Buddha nature. The Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha was not his name. Buddha means the enlightened one. It was something he was called after his realization. Actually, when he was alive and people would ask him, what are you? Are you a god? Are you a... And he would just say, I am awake. I am awake. So when we see the image of a Buddha, it reminds us that we all have the capacity to be awakened. But in a well created or well wrought image of the Buddha, such as this one, there's a felt presence. There is a calmness, a stillness, a grace, equanimity that is palpable. It inspires us to sit and to live and to walk about with this kind of equanimity and innate stillness in our body and mind. Actually, you see the Buddha, he's in this mudra, his hand is down like that. That is, in Buddhist iconography, this is considered a Buddha in the earth-touching mode, or earth-touching mudra. And it refers to, in the account of the Buddha's, Shakyamuni's enlightenment, during his process of awakening, of his deep meditation, that went on for some time. There was a time during it, toward the end, after many things had occurred, But prior to his breakthrough, we could say he was assailed with the voices of doubt. In the traditional accounting, it's more personified as the kind of the forces of delusion, Mara, this kind of devilish creature, had tried to distract him in many different ways, just the way we are often distracted in our meditations. The Buddha was distracted by the forces of delusion in his meditation in many ways. And one sort of Mara had tried to seduce him, scare him, distract him, all the usual stuff. He finally let forth doubt. It's very interesting, because many of us, our spiritual life is sabotaged by doubt. And in this case, the doubt was sort of like, who do you think you are? That you think you can become enlightened? Who do you think you are that you can free yourself be free of all afflictions? Who do you think you are that you have this capacity to be the Buddha of the world, and therefore, bring benefit and emancipation to countless beings? It's sort of like, you're a nobody, right? You're just Siddhartha, the son of a little petty feudal king. Who do you... So anyhow, he was assailed by all the kinds of things that many of us may know that assail us in our doubting our own capacity to transform and heal, to become whole. And supposedly at that moment, the Buddha had been sitting in meditation. He reached his hand down, like in this mudra, and he touched the earth. It's very interesting. And it is said that he did that because he didn't have to attest to his capacity with his own words or his own justification. His touching of the earth symbolized his incredible interconnection with all life, and the solidity that he and the solidity of the earth were not different. It is also said in the tradition that in that moment of his touching the earth signified for him, attested to his that he's the right one. And it said the earth did that because in all the prior lifetimes of the Buddha, there was not one square inch of earth in which he had not, in some form, whether human, animal, or whatever, had not devoted himself to a selfless activity of helping. So supposedly the answer came from the earth, that he is worthy. And hopefully each one of us, when we are assailed with doubt about our own capacity, to free ourselves from our conditioning, to free ourselves from our childhood issues, our stuff, our afflictions, we will also hear the voice of the earth and of all beings, signifying that we, each of us, have that capacity. So it's a very wonderful mudra to have here in our meditation hall, to practice with us, inspire us. Somebody have a question? Does anybody have a question about anything that was just shared, or about the Buddha? The actual altar is not done yet. We are going to be painting the wall a different color, lowering that beautiful, it's a Thai, from Thailand, mandala, a wooden mandala, lotus mandala, so it's more right behind him. getting some lighting, but anyhow, hopefully he's here to stay. When I was here several weeks ago, so for those of you who are there, we had a weekend retreat of people in our community who are part of what's called the Order of Interbeing, this order that was founded by Thich Nhat Hanh, I guess nearly 50 years ago. The decades do fly by, and continues to be an active order, actually internationally. And we have a community here of over 30 people who are either ordained in the order or aspirants. And we had a retreat a couple of weekends ago, and then on that Sunday, I just began sharing a little bit of the 14 guidelines or the 14 trainings that people who are in the Order of Interbeing, these are the precepts that they do their best to live by. And I'm reading from a book. It's a wonderful book called Interbeing, and it has the 14 trainings of the Order, but also Thich Nhat Hanh's commentary on each of them, as well as the charter of the order. It's really quite fascinating, quite a modern-day extension of traditional Buddhist morality, really taking it into the world. And so my recollection, and help me if my recollection is not accurate, is that I was just looking at the seventh, just to give you an example of what they're like, and I only got through the first sentence. Does that sound right? Right. So, at that rate, we'll be on this for months, because there are probably a bunch of sentences. Let me just read it through, and then we'll begin again. So this is the seventh of these 14. And it reads, aware that life is available only in the present moment and that it is possible to live happily in the here and now. We are committed to training ourselves to live deeply each moment of daily life. We will try not to lose ourselves in dispersion or be carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future, or craving anger or jealousy in the present. We will practice mindful breathing to come back to what is happening in the present moment. We are determined to learn the art of mindful living by touching the wondrous, refreshing, and healing elements that are inside and around us, and by nourishing seeds of joy, peace, love, and understanding in ourselves, thus facilitating the work of transformation and healing in our consciousness. So obviously there's a lot here. And perhaps while the words are easy to understand, to really grasp their meaning and to take that in is our challenge. So I'm pretty sure that I talked about the first sentence. Is that right? Yeah. So let me just, for those who weren't here, aware that life is available only in the present moment. So this is key fact number 1. Do we really know that? When you know it, you're able to live it. It is the way you operate in the world when you really know something. Like when you know what you like and you know what you don't like. You know it. Do we know that life, and each of us right now are alive, and we're only alive right now? So, are we aware? Do we understand that if we're going to be truly alive, it is only available now? Nowhere else. Past is gone, future hasn't come. There's only this. So that's a big one right there. I mean, that's a life changer to know that life is only available in the present moment. And then he says, and that it is possible to live happily in the here and now. Okay, 2. So please, it's easy to listen to these things and to say, oh, that sounds great, yeah. But do we really get it? Because if you really get it, it changes your life dramatically. Right? Life is only available in the present, and that it is possible to live happily in the present moment. Please ask yourself, do I really believe that? You know, if it has been your experience, right, that you have always dwelt happily in the present moment, then you already know that, right? But if it has not been your experience, that has been the possibility of your life, then you have to take it on faith, right? And in Buddhism, faith doesn't really mean, it really is not the right word. The right word in Buddhism, in the translations, is trust. You know, if that hasn't been my experience, do I trust those that are telling me that, those who have written it, that they're telling the truth? And I can trust that. I can have confidence in that. Because if I don't have that, then I won't really do the things necessary to experience it, to live it. So again, these are simple words, but they are powerful. I would say most people don't really believe that they have the capacity of dwelling happily in the present moment on a fairly consistent basis, that it is always available to them. So again, then there's a comma. Aware that life is available only in the present moment and that it is possible to live happily in the here and now. And again, I think I spent a lot of time on this several weeks ago, and I believe they're recorded, so I won't repeat. Then comma, we are committed to training ourselves to live deeply each moment of daily life. Okay, there it is, right? Okay, you know, this is what I got to do, right? If I get it, that life only occurs in the present, and if I get it, that in this present moment I have the capacity of living, of dwelling happily, right? Then therefore, right, I commit myself to training to live deeply each moment of daily life. Keywords here are what? Commitment, training. Oh, maybe that's why, since I've heard all the talks, read all the books, etc., I still do not live that way. Right? Oh, I skipped over this second part of the sentence. Committed. Right? We talk a lot in our world, people talk a lot about committed relationships. Anybody ever heard that word? Right? Committed relationships. People have issues around commitment. Right? This is about that. You know, can I make a commitment? I want to learn to live happily, to be happy in my life, whatever is going on in it. I want to do that for myself and for others. I think most people would say yes to that, wouldn't they? Yeah. Then are we willing to commit ourselves to training ourselves? See, many of us, when we enter this world of healing and transformation, we don't get it, right? In other worlds, you know, if we're in our work, we understand, in our professions, in our trades, in our craft, we understand, we have to train, right? We have to go through a period of training, of apprenticeship, of learning, of discipline, of repetition, right? We understand that, oh yeah, if I'm going to become good at this, if I'm going to have any reward, success in this, I need to train, don't I? And the training, if it's going to be meaningful, has to be consistent, right? So I need to commit. It's the same in this, even more. Because that person who gets up in the morning, who lives in this relationship and that relationship, who goes to work, who does this, that person who plays all those roles in life is you. You are more than the roles you play, more than the masks you wear and take on and put off. And this is about that person. Does that person dwell in harmony and well-being? If not, do you believe he or she has that potential, and it's simply by committing yourself to enter into a process of training that you will realize that which you aspire to? To training ourselves to live deeply each moment of daily life. You see how simple this is? You know, we make it so hard. This is so simple, right? It's not like you got to go off somewhere. It's not like you got to, change your outfits. It's not like you've got to make a geographical move. You don't have to go off to any austere place, right? It says what? I need to train myself to live each daily moment of life. Well, we're already, each of us is living daily life, which is a process of moments, from the time we get up in the morning to the time we go to bed, right? Is that clear? Just want to make sure we're defining terms, right? So that which, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, we could say that is our daily life. Okay? Everybody here has a daily life. Throughout the day is made up of moments. Right? Moment, 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 moment. Moment this, moment that. So all we need to commit to is to live deeply each moment of our life. To be present. To be open. To be aware. To notice. Right? Can you see, this is a path of awakening that is available to everyone, because everybody has a daily life that is made up of moments, and all we need to do is to learn to be present. Moving on. So now we get a little more specific about what that means, what that training is going to be about in terms of this piece of the path. We will try Right? Interesting, he didn't say, and we will succeed. Right? Right away setting us up for failure. The emphasis here is on what? Do I even try? There are many people I talk to who go, I get up in the morning, I do my meditation, I read my thing, walk out the door, totally out of mind. Then I come home at night, it's like, oh, mindfulness, yeah, that was right. What happened? Are we trying to remember about the present moment. That this is the moment of my life. We will try not to lose ourselves in dispersion or be carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future, or craving anger or jealousy in the present. There it is. There it is. Right? The answer. Right? Why? Why am I not living in the present moment? Because I'm distracted. I'm all over the place. And beside just a general kind of distraction, I am carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future, craving anger or jealousy in the present. Why don't I see the sun? Why don't I see the blue sky? Something's obscuring it. Clouds. When the clouds are thick, I can't see the blue sky. I can't see the radiant sun, can I? It's there. Why don't I see it? Because it's obstructed by the clouds. What are these clouds for us that we don't see? The radiance of this present moment. We're just lost in what? In our own, what's called in Buddhism, mental fabrication. We're endlessly ruminating about the past, right? Now, if I asked rationally, if I said to everybody here, does the past exist as a real entity? And you would say what? No, that's crazy, right? The past is gone. Is there anybody who doesn't agree? Right. And yet, how many people spend time ruminating, going over, thinking about things in the past? Right? We will try not to lose ourselves in dispersion or be carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future. Right? When we give our minds a little break from its ruminations about the past, we then say, well, let me just what? There must be something I can anticipate that I could worry about a little bit, be anxious about, have expectations about, role play about, imagine about, right? Right? Hours and hours. And if we're not doing that, craving anger or jealousy in the present, we're not even just dealing with things in the present just as they are. We are interpreting, we are overlaying things with projections, we're creating all kinds of emotionality around things that are just unfolding in our life. We're pissed about this, we're we're disappointed about that, we're judging this, we're critical of that, right? Where is there time for clarity? Where is there time for happiness and well-being? It doesn't have a chance, does it? These are the clouds. These are the coverings that prevent us from seeing clearly and experience our natural well-being. Right? The sun is always shining. The sky is always blue. Right? But we don't see it if there's a thick covering. So is that clear? He's talking now about training. We have to train our minds to stop their dwelling in the past, in the future, and endlessly getting lost in dramas and melodramas and projections, creating emotional afflictions in the present. If we were honest with ourselves and say, that's me, right, that's where I spend my day, then of course we're not happy. Of course we don't feel at ease. Of course our minds do not feel settled and calm. Impossible. That it is possible to live happily, So you see how it circles back. Do I want to be happy? Again, it's kind of a no-brainer. Everybody would say, yeah, of course. But yet, if you look at how we live our lives, if you looked often at how we, the kind of mind states that we cultivate, we are actually doing the opposite. We are making causes for the opposite. So this teaching is very clear. It just puts it out there. And then he says, we will practice mindful breathing to come back to what is happening in the present moment. Okay? So now he's added this traditional piece, going back to the Buddha, of this fundamental practice of mindfulness of the body breathing. Right? Because again, there is no stability for most of us in the fabrications of our minds. Have you noticed that? Endlessly the mind is putting forward more and more endless fabrications in the world of thought, perception, stories, dramas, flooding us with all types of emotionality that are not created by reality, only created by our own fabrications, right? We need an alternative place to put our attention, right? So we are not constantly swept away by this kind of habit energy of our mind, right? Most of us aren't doing it, are we? You can just sit like this, right? Come to meditation, sit for a couple hours. You sit there, what happens? The mind just continues to fabricate. It doesn't need anything real going on, does it? Who needs reality? It'll just endlessly fabricate. Right? Because we are so habituated, so identified with with these fabrications of our mind and consider them real and true, when we are, kind of going through withdrawal, sort of like, we have to go through detox. We need another place to put our attention so we don't get swept away. Right? And we do get swept away, don't we? It's just like that. You can sit down. I'm going to sit down now, and I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to be mindful today. Right? Get up in the morning. I'm going to have a mindful day. 10 seconds later, you're off and running. Right? So we need to train ourselves in mindful breathing. Awareness of the body, awareness of the breath. It's sort of like, again, if you have a boat and you come into port, right? And you get to the dock or whatever, you have to anchor it. You have to anchor it or tie it up or something, because if you don't, what's going to happen? It's just going to float off with the tide or the wind. That's what happens to us. Right? If we don't anchor our minds in something that has some consistency and stability, an alternative to the endless projections and fabrications of our thinking mind, we will just be swept away. So we need to cultivate this practice of mindfulness and mindfulness of the breath. The breath, again, is something that as long as we are alive, it is with us. There are many practices in Buddhism, but fundamental is this practice of mindful breathing, awareness of the body breath. It gives us a ground, gives us an anchor. It can be with us in the meditation hall, it can be with us when we're sitting, when we're walking, it can be with us when we're driving, it can be with us at work, it can be with us at home. As long as we are breathing, it'll be the first thing we can be aware of in the morning, it's the last thing before we go to bed at night. So this practice of mindful breathing, mindful breathing brings us back, right, to come back to your breath. Breathing in, I am aware that I'm breathing in, not just as a statement, but as an experience. It immediately brings you back to what is going on now, right? You are not aware of a breath you took an hour ago. You're not aware of a breath you're going to take an hour from now. When you practice mindful breathing, you are aware of something that is going on now. So immediately, what begins as awareness of the breath immediately brings you back to this. Oh. We come back from the dreamland. We come back from fantasy land. Oh, body, breathing, seeing, present. And what do? And we begin again. Okay? We begin again. We are trying. We are making an effort to become more mindful. Right? And please understand that when you are mindful in the present moment, when you are practicing mindfulness, you are not only practicing mindfulness of the breath. I mean, emotions, thoughts, melodramas, stories, those are also going on in the present moment, right? But if you don't see them, you cannot deal with them in any effective way, right? So when you come back to your breath and get grounded again and get anchored again, you will see, oh, I'm lost in dispersion. I'm lost in drama. I'm lost in worry. I'm lost in the past. I've been lost in the future. Right? You'll see not only physically where you are, but you'll also see mentally and emotionally. You'll see where your mind is. And at that point, you have the capacity to do something. Let go. Resolve it. I mean, whatever. But at least you know what's going on. Most people, their stories and their dramas and their emotions just run. Unconsciously run and run them. Right? So mindfulness of the body and the breath is the ground. But it can be used, it's like, you can use it to investigate, to look at external phenomena, Oh, I'm chopping vegetables. Oh, I'm talking to somebody on the phone. Right? I was just lost in my own dramas, my own projections. Let me come back to just being present, just listening to them, just chopping vegetables, just walking. So we come back to the present. We will practice mindful breathing to come back to what is happening in the present moment. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether we want it, when we don't want it, whatever. We are present to it. Mindfulness is not mindfulness does not discriminate. Mindfulness does not judge and evaluate. Mindfulness just reveals what is going on in the present. There are many other practices that help us learn how to deal skillfully with what's going on. But if we don't even know what's going on, and if we don't have a ground or an anchor or a solid place to stand to look at what's going on, we will be swept away. We will be lost. Lost within the the oceans and the storms of our own conditioning, of our own historical habit energy, and it will never change. Right? It'll just go on year after year after year, decade after decade, until there is a meaningful attempt at developing mindfulness, self-awareness, and developing these tools that are part of a path that can, if there are wounds in us, we need to know what they are and we need to heal them. If there are things in us that need to be transformed, we need to know what they are, we need to know how to go about the process of transformation, and we have to do it. That's it. That's a good life. This next one is very important, and I think this is a very, because in a lot of the Buddhist teachings, it's very kind of, there's not a lot of emphasis on happiness, joy. You hear a lot about equanimity and calmness and stability and clarity. I think one of the wonderful gifts of Thich Nhat Hanh as a Buddhist teacher and a master is that he says, we are determined to learn the art of mindful living by touching the wondrous, refreshing, healing elements that are inside and around us, and by nourishing seeds of joy, peace, and love and understanding in ourselves, thus facilitating the work of transformation and healing in our consciousness. This is very important, and Thich Nhat Hanh really is one of his great contributions, I think, to Buddhism today. That it's not enough just to have a kind of open kind of mindfulness. That if one truly wants to heal and transform, one has to learn to use one's mindfulness to touch the wondrous, refreshing, healing elements that are inside and around us. Do you know what those are for you? Do you know inside and outside? Do you know what facilitates your own capacity to touch deep places of well-being, happiness, joy, equanimity, by real experiences, not by just generating abstractly. But this is about, how do I create a life, right? He calls it the art of mindful living. That the art of mindful living means I know how to touch the beautiful things in life. Many of us are experts at touching the ugly things in life. Things that get us angry, things that get us sad, things that get us bitter, things that get us frustrated, things that get us worried, things that just, right? We're often, many of us are experts at that. We know how to touch those things. There are people who obsessively watch and listen to the news. Talk about cultivating negative seeds. I mean, that's the place to do it, right? I mean, every now and then by accident, I'll listen to these talk radio things, it's like, how ugly, right? People just ranting and anger and, critical of each other and putting people down. I mean, right? What seeds are being cultivated, right? In that kind of stuff. Right. Conversations, media, movies, there's so many things, the natural world, music, relationships, right? So many things that are available to us that will nurture, that will refresh, that will renew, that will contribute to us to our capacity to lead a happy life where there is well-being. I mean, is that clear? And so what he's saying, mindful living means we are using our mindfulness to identify what those are. But that also implies that we are aware of all the things that we may be doing, all the experiences we may be touching in our life, which are actually facilitating unhappiness, not being at ease. So we need to look deeply at how we are living our life, how the kind of experiences we are giving ourselves, and see that as, what am I cultivating here? Because we are not where we are because of some outside force. Each of us is where we are, we have the minds we have solely because of the way they've been conditioned and the way we continue to condition them. Because the Buddha understands the prime mover of the mind in the creation of a human's happiness or unhappiness. That is why in Buddhism, these more introspective mindfulness, meditation, are the core practices. Practices that deal with helping us look into, understand, and transform the mind. Questions? Please think. Is this anything unclear? Anything you have any questions about? Take issue with? Yes.
When I was sitting here looking at you started by talking about the Buddha, I so want to move the altar forward and move the statue back because I don't like it sitting on the edge.
It is making you unhappy.
It is. It is the present moment.
Yes.
But my real question is, my question is, why is the past given such a bad rap?
Why is the past given such a bad rap? You mean by the Buddha?
Well, no. But there are times when, as I am in the present, see things rise up from the past, that remembrances that are quite pleasant. I don't pursue them. Mm-hmm. I experience them. I don't seek to make them happen again. Mm-hmm. But there are beautiful moments.
So let me just repeat. Let me repeat this. So Jerry's sticking up for the past, and he's going. Hold on a minute here. Sometimes I have thoughts about the past or something or I'm thinking about something from the past, or it just comes up, which are nice memories, which make me feel good, right? They're happy. They do support my happiness, So, again, we have to be very careful not to turn any of this into dogma, okay? The key here is not to lose ourselves or being carried away by regrets. Again, all Buddha's teaching is always, please understand, all Buddha's teaching is always about the cessation of suffering. Okay? So, we might say, right, that and again, he says regrets. That's just one word, but that means all the stuff that we do where we ruminate, go over losses, disappointments, bad decisions, all that kind of stuff that is not about trying to understand something better. It's just this endless repetition that creates negative mind states. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Okay, it doesn't say, that if all of a sudden you're walking somewhere and you smell something or see something, hear a song, and a nice memory comes up, that's benign. Yeah, so it's really talking about that kind of rumination. That causes unhappiness, or that type of rumination. And for many people, it's obsessive of really just living in the past. The past is something they're always going over the same hurts, going over the same disappointments, going over the same wrong choices. So that's what we're talking about, Jerry. Yeah, and again, thank you. We don't want to turn this into dogma, like never, again. But again, I think it's just mindfulness, Jerry, will allow us to watch our minds and see. And we'll see what this mind state creates, what this rumination creates. Good. Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about how what you just said about not exposing ourselves to negativity that creates negativity in us relates to the instruction we're also given to not turn away from the suffering of the world?
Right. Which is a different one of the trainings. Yeah. Again, the question is, that thing about always touching the beautiful, nourishing, refreshing things in life, creating happiness. But how about that other training, which has to do with, acknowledging suffering in the world and actually being able to go to suffering and be present to suffering? That's a good question. I think the wonderful thing is they're all part of the 14. So if you take one, or even like Jerry just said, you just take one phrase in one, it can seem, and try to make it stand alone, it doesn't seem very integrated. Right? And the same way, the 14 have a coherency too. What we are talking about in the 7th training is, as human beings, as people on the path, or people who are seeking our own healing and transformation, right? Learning about the present moment, learning what it is and how to touch it, learning about our capacity to create happiness and well-being for ourselves and for others is essential, right? Happy people don't make war. Happy people don't make violence to another. Happy people want other people to be happy and will do things that facilitate happiness and not suffering. So, for those who seek to end the suffering in the world, we have to first learn how to end the suffering within ourselves. But also we have to learn how to lead a meaningful life and to demonstrate in our own lives, no matter what the situation is, that capacity. Having done that, or doing that, when one is present to suffering, whether it is a suffering that comes to us personally, or whether we are present to the suffering of others, because we have this reservoir of ease and well-being within ourselves, we will have a greater capacity to be present to another's suffering without being overwhelmed by it. There are many good people who are in the world doing their best to ease the suffering of others. But many of these people, because they lack the capacity to be happy themselves, get affected negatively and lose the capacity of being present to others' suffering. They become callous, they become indifferent, right? They become overwhelmed themselves, and it begins to affect them. They become bitter. So there are many things that very well-meaning people who are involved with helping people who suffer, they end up increasing their own suffering. And they really don't know how to share this fundamental capacity. As we're learning in this training, it is not simply a matter of uprooting afflictions. It's also a matter of cultivating positive mind states, positive emotions. Right? That's real healing. Buddhism, actually, I think a couple of months I'm giving a workshop on Buddhist psychology. But Buddhism is not just a path that looks at, uprooting pathology. It's not a path of just uprooting negative mind states. It is also a path of cultivating all the positive qualities, potentials of the mind. That's what makes life beautiful. That's what makes Buddhas. Right? And so they go together. Okay? They go together. Yeah. You might say, how can one be happy in the midst of suffering? Right? It seems impossible. And yet, being present to suffering and knowing that one is doing one's best to help, to relieve the sufferings of others, it does create happiness in one. So we should probably end. Thank you.